Ipswich Town make their first trip to the London Stadium, looking to make their unbeaten run not 4 games, but 5 in the Premier League. This is Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. We're going to get sound complaints off of that shouty bit, and I forgot to turn the volume down on the Atwell stuff, the intro music. Yeah, I'm useless. Who isn't useless? Seb Brown's not useless. Are you looking forward to West Ham on Saturday?
I am. A new ground is somewhere we've not been, and one I can tick off. St Mary's was my first new ground of the season. Tick that one off. So I'm looking forward to getting West Ham ticked off on the old app, and I think that will leave me 7 or 8 Premier League grounds to go. So hopefully I can get them all done this year.
You've got the points. You got no excuses. I assume. Are you bothering with Brentford? Did you even get as far as that?
Oh no, that's one I can't do. Tell her, yeah, I can't do that. I'm away. I'm in the States, so I can't do that one. But hopefully the rest of them I'll be able to tick off.
Sack Seb for being disloyal. Holidays during the season. Who'd have thunk it? That's why we have international breaks. Hello to everyone in the chat. We are, of course, here to preview West Ham v Ipswich on Saturday. We want to hear all your views, predictions, lineups, all that kind of stuff. But we're here to give you the inside track, hopefully on West Ham, and give you a few tidbits to share with your mates and pretend that you're super clever and know all the stuff. Our stuff is your stuff. We're here for you. But any insights that folk want to share, if you're a West Ham fan as well, you're very welcome. Let us know that you're here too. But let's say hello to let's get the weather report as we usually do. 17 degrees in chilly Brisbane, says our friend Michael. Chilly 17 degrees. Goodness me. Ashley is here. He's confident. First win. We'll talk more about our confidence levels later on. Paul feeling similarly confident. Blimey. Do we need to bring people down a little bit? So we're gonna, or no?
Don't be negative.
Enjoy yourselves. That's part
Bloody
of
negative podcasters,
isn't it? Yeah, exactly right. What else have we got? Here you go, Neil. Let's hope first win comes. Wet spam, goodness me. Professional podcast. We're not putting up any of that nonsense. Neil, good evening to our friend down in Plymouth. Tim, good to have you with us. Horse Hollerer, Collins here. Bagul. Streaky is here as well. Sharon's here. Yeah, lots of marks here. Great. Good to see you all. Here's Pete, our mate Pete. Take your binoculars, Seb. Yeah, Seb and I did a bit of a recce, didn't we? We did a bit of a scouting mission for the London Stadium. I mean, probably more for the players' benefit than ours. Do you want to elaborate, Seb?
Yeah, so we saw Foo Fighters there back in June. Did we actually work out where the away fans? I think we were trying to work it out, weren't we? And I don't know if we came to a conclusion, but yeah, some of those seats, I think I'm in row 99 or something. Some of those seats do look very high up. So it's a bit of a warm up for Newcastle away in April as the battle for the furthest away from the pitch awards. We all know about the London Stadium, and is it necessarily a good footballing stadium? That's to be decided. But yeah, it looks like we might have to zoom in a little bit on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, is it a good football stadium? Not for us to say, but probably isn't. But you'll all find out. I mean, do you have any happy memories of Upton Park, Seb? I have been there a few times, but I don't. It was a really horrible place to be as a noise support, wasn't it? You and I went there for the playoff, the Ian Westlake off the post playoff game.
A night game. Yeah, the year later, that's quite a good memory for me. We were 2-0 down and all. And we pulled it back to 2-2, and I kind of thought we'd turn up in the home leg and do the business. We didn't, but yeah, that night under the lights was horrible, wasn't it? I mean, it's still one of the best atmospheres I've ever heard at a stadium. Hasn't it come out and said we probably lost that game in the tunnel, and they were all wearing the Bobby Moore t-shirts, and the crowd were up for it, and yeah, we just didn't really get a kick, did we? And it was a horrible atmosphere after the game, trying to get out afterwards as well, wasn't it? It's, the bowling was so tightly packed in with the surrounding streets and stuff, and yeah, not a pleasant experience. So hoping for far better on Saturday at the London Stadium. But yeah, Upton Park, I can't think of. I wasn't there at the 1-0, the Royce game the guys discussed on Blue Monday Rewind a couple of days ago. So yeah, all the times I went there, the best I ever saw was that 2-2 playoff draw, coming back from being 2-0 down, with Coochie smashing in an equaliser and us going crazy thinking we were going to make it.
Rando was policed Upton Park for a few years. Good for him. Special place in his heart. Special place under the lights. He says, yeah, I mean,
It was a proper ground, wasn't it? It's up there with the Evertons, the Villa Parks. It's a proper Premier League ground. I mentioned afterwards, it's very packed getting out, but you like that kind of that tight feel with the surrounding streets. It's kind of a throwback to old school grounds with character rather than the kind of identikits that you get on outskirts of cities these days.
Yeah, a lot more seats though. So revenue, all that kind of fun corporate-y crap that football clubs you have to care about these days, I guess. But yeah, it felt like an interesting stadium to see, particularly they rebuilt one of the main stands, didn't they, and had that kind of castly bit from the badge out the back of it as well. But yeah,
the chicken run was still like the original, wasn't it? So it was weird.
Yeah.
It was like lopsided, wasn't it? You had this new development, and the old chicken run would still be the same as it was probably in the 80s, I assume. So yeah, strange how it was kind of a bit like Portman Road. You've got these two redeveloped stands, and then an old one that needs a bit of work.
Yeah, we're not going there, so we'll move it on and spare you our playoff misery heartache stories. We are approaching an international break, Seb, aforementioned. Always a bit of a depressing prospect, but Ipswich players are now getting call-ups left, right and centre, except for Leif Davis and Calvin Effin Phillips, which I think is a bit of a... Well, I think Lee Carsey's let himself down there, if I'm honest. But other players will be disappearing off. Do you want to give us a rundown of who's going where?
Yeah, so Burns and Broadhead have been called up to the Wales squad for their qualifiers against Iceland and Montenegro. Great chance for Broadhead to get some minutes, hopefully under his belt. Apparently, Bellamy's a big fan, according to the TWTD article. So it'd be nice if he can get, an hour or so across both games maybe and get some fitness because he hasn't featured yet this season. Republic of Ireland have called up a quartet of Ipswich Town players. When was the last time we had 4 players in an international squad? You must be going back in the annals to find those kind of figures. We've got Smodic, O'Shea, Ogbene and Jack Taylor called up. He's been in the squad before, but he's never made his senior appearance, as so hopefully he can get his first Ireland cap. We know Kayuste is out. We'll discuss our team news, but we know he's out of the Sweden squad. He won't feature. And Kieran Slicker's hand injury, I assume, is keeping him out of the Scotland under-21 side. But yeah, it sounds like Portman Road again next week might be a bit of a ghost town. Not heard on Murich. I assume he probably won't get a call up given the what happened in the international break last time. But it sounds like Portman Road might again be a little bit of a ghost town, and that's the price of success, isn't it, chaps?
It is, and we would expect Liam Delap to get an under-21s call up on Friday. We're recording this Thursday.
He'd be shocked if he didn't. And Amari pulled out last time, didn't he? He was in the squad, but he pulled out with, was it a niggle or fatigue? I can't remember what it was. So perhaps maybe he might get a call up again. But Liam Delap, I would think, would be an absolute certainty.
Yeah, Neil suggesting England late 70s, perhaps, for the last time we had a quartet of international departures, at least to the same nation. But yeah, good on us. Excellent stuff. And Streaky mentioned as well, really pleased for Jack Taylor. Has been involved in the periphery, but has made a couple of important cameos in the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
He's looked really good. Came off the bench at Southampton. I was a bit surprised because we hadn't really seen him for weeks since the AFC Wimbledon sort of debacle, and he looked really good. He's so progressive with the ball, isn't he? He's always looking to do something positive. And then I thought last weekend against Villa, he was excellent again. So fully deserved. And yeah, I thought he might be one that we didn't really see much of, and maybe he'd go out on loan to the Championship in January. But fair play to him. He's kind of getting his chance, and every time he comes off the bench, he's certainly impressing at the moment.
He is. Do you want to do a shameless plug, Seb? Do you want to plea to the good people out there listening and watching?
Yeah, so we've been nominated for the FCA nominations, which is incredibly kind. The Football Content Awards, is it? We're up for Best Premier League podcast. So please, if you've got a couple of spare minutes, please go to www.footballcontentawards.com/voting. I don't think there's a limit. I think you can vote as many times as you like. So everyone set it throughout the day and just keep on clicking.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
I'm not sure that's true. I think if it recognises your IP address, it won't.
Right, nerdy stuff I don't understand. Well, if people feel obliged to
multiple devices, folks,
people feel obliged to pop over there and give us a vote, that would be much appreciated. So that Rich and Mikey, whoever's going to the Tottenham Stadium where the champagne will be free flowing, they won't look out of place. Go and give them a vote, everyone, please. Please do. And also, while you're at it, give Alex Griffin's on there as well. Yeah, so it's TWTD, isn't it? TWTD. Yeah. So, yeah. Nathan, good to have you with us. West Ham fan. Keep us honest. Make sure we try to be even-handed. We might not always be accurate because we're Ipswich fans, but if you want to chip in, do let us know if you've got any insights as well. But welcome along to you. Before we talk West Ham, I need to shout out ITFC women who are back playing in the league finally at Felixstowe on Sunday against Watford. Watford fourth, 10 points, 3 behind ITFC.
and Town are on the back of a really impressive 3-1 away win in the cup. They've drawn hashtag at home. That will be played a couple of weeks' time as well. Also at Felixstowe. Tickets available on the club's tickets website. You can also pay on the day, but do get behind ITFC women. They're on a really good run at the moment, some really strong. The M word came up in a podcast, Men in Blazers and Mark Ashton. The M word is a bit of a vulgar word for our chief exec / chairman and manager said, because it undersells the amount of effort, relentlessness that's gone into getting the results. So momentum is kind of not a thing anymore. It's we are putting together really strong performances. We are relentless. We are scoring goals, winning matches, and plus you don't need to get membership points to get tickets at the moment. So get down to Felixstowe Sunday, 2 p.m. kickoff at Felixstowe, and you may or may not hear, depending on the quality of the PA system, which is improving, you may or may not hear a familiar voice on the announcer gig as well. West Ham, Seb, we were kind of bigging up Aston Villa in respect of a big name in the football pyramid. I think we called him a proper club. I kind of feel like West Ham and Ipswich have a lot of similarities as well. A lot of obviously 70s, 80s, a lot of classy players, a lot of success, and well-supported teams as well. But West Ham maybe a little bit had the better of it in recent years. But what's your emotions when I say West Ham? Is it good things, or is it a team that you hate to face, similar to the playoff debacle?
Well, yeah, I mean, people of our age are going to remember those playoff games. The back-to-back years. We won the first leg, didn't we, in 2004? Darren Bent scored at Portman Road and ultimately fell apart at the return leg at Upton Park. And then a couple of years later, as I mentioned earlier, did the hard work in that first game, got it back to 2-2, and then really disappointingly, Bobby Zamora, kind of Marlon Harewood, puts a ball across Bobby Zamora, side foots home effortlessly.
Alan Pardew.
Yeah, and the Hammers are off to Wembley, and it's we've got good memories. If you check out Blue Monday Rewind, there was a 5-1 destruction at Portman Road on transfer deadline day in January in 2012. I'm guessing it would have been.
That wasn't in Blue Monday Rewind, though.
No, it wasn't, but they referred to it. And a 1-0 victory. Very late on, Lee Bowyer scored at Upton Park. So recently, we've had a couple of decent kind of results against them. And I like West Ham. I have to be honest. My dad was a West Ham fan, so I went there quite a bit with him. So it's a kind of side that I've always had fond memories of. I've never been to the London Stadium, so looking forward to that. And yeah, I know they're kind of our rivals. They've got
closest, aren't they?
Yeah, technically they are kind of our closest game this season, I'm assuming. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going there, and it's a club that I do like. Obviously, we'll talk about their current situation. Obviously, they very similar to us, don't you think, with the Mick McCarthy stuff? The David Moyes era kind of was allowed to drag on too much, and lazy journalism will say, be careful what you wish for. David Moyes was a safe pair of hands. He won you the Europa Conference League. And now you're going to be in trouble because his football keeps you up, but it's not very exciting. But just like us, we heard this with Mick McCarthy. Unless you are sat in those stands watching that football week in, week out, I don't really think you're qualified to make, an opinion on the matter. And just like with Mick McCarthy, the football becomes tiresome when you're maybe not as successful. They've chosen to go in a different route. Okay, it's not working for them so far, but I think they are in a false position in the league. I would be shocked if they were this far down. They're 14th at the moment. I'd be shocked if they were kind of anywhere near the relegation battle come the spring. I think they'll either sort it out under Lopetegui or they'll make a change. And I think this squad, as we've seen in recent years with their Europa Cup and Europa Conference campaigns, is easily good enough to be batting in the kind of the top 10.
Yeah, it's a really good shout on the eye test of the fan base, and that's kind of why I mentioned the kind of the 70s, 80s era, because that kind of established, the Robson era established our Ipswich way, our way of thinking, and West Ham, the academy and all that kind of stuff, and winning the World Cup and all that kind of stuff. These are fans who are used to seeing their club establish themselves on the main stage and do things the right way, and you can see it when it's deviating away from that kind of stuff. And the fans are the first people really to pick up on that. Owners and that kind of people aren't that emotionally invested in it, and it's not fun to see that. Obviously, if it works out and Ipswich get a win as a result of this sense of a kind of a disconnect between the playing style, and we'll talk about Lopetegui's style of play and that kind of stuff, and David Moyes in a bit. But yeah, it's not a great situation to be as a football fan when you're in that situation, and thankfully we're out the other side of it at the moment. Do you want to catch us up with the state of play, Seb, going into Saturday's game?
Yeah, so they sat 1 point ahead of us. They're in 14th position with 5 points, one ahead of us at the moment. Played 6, only won 1, drawn 2 and lost 3. Scored 6 goals, conceded 10. Their victory was against Crystal Palace. The draws were against Fulham and Brentford, who probably are sides they maybe should be looking to beat if they had designs on the top 10 like previous couple of years. Defeats were against Villa, Man City and Chelsea. And that's important for context, I think, because, we sat here last week and we waxed lyrical about what a good side we thought Villa were. And we both predicted Ipswich defeats that day. Villa are an excellent side. City are a cheat code, let's be honest. And Chelsea don't obviously look like the basket case club they have been for the last couple of years. They've started the season really strongly. So, yes, they have lost 3 games so far this season, but they are against excellent sides. However, it's the first time in their club's history they have lost the first 3 games at home at the start of a season. So it hasn't started well for them. After us, they've got Tottenham to come, which is a big rivalry, obviously. I guess there's a lot of pressure on them for Saturday to beat us because they would be expecting to beat a newly promoted side. So they'll have a lot of pressure going into that game. If they don't get the result at the weekend, and let's say Tottenham were to, hammer them 3 or 4-0, I think a lot of pressure then starts to build on Lopetegui. Potentially, they've got Man United after that, I think. Then it eases slightly, they've got Forest. But a lot of pressure might start to build on him going into that November international break, which we know is quite often when Premier League sides look to make a change.
Yeah, I assume you meant the pun hammer there, Seb. Talk to us about the Brentford game. Moving on.
It was a 1-1 draw last time out at the GTEC Community Stadium. They were 1-0 down. Brentford got this weird thing, haven't they? They score within a minute, 3 games on the bounce. They did their usual bit poor defending, I thought. A couple of opportunities to clear the ball. They don't take it. They kind of head it back into the danger zone, then fail to get it cleared, and it's hooked home. Thomas Souček then kind of equalised in the second half. Not a great goal, scrappy, kind of the ball bouncing around the box a little bit.
In there, Bowen's involved a little under the, back heel kind of thing, no?
I don't think it's going to win goal of the season in my eyes, personally. I think it was a bit of a scrappy bit of pinball, but they get the kind of the points. 43% possession. They actually outperformed Brentford on the XG, 0.99 to 0.37. 19 shots to 8, but only 3 of those were on target. And then this weird thing comes out afterwards where apparently Lopetegui, he subbed Mohamed Kudus at half time, and then this weird kind of story comes out. They had a frank exchange of words, I think was how The Athletic reported it, following the incident. Sources denied they had to be separated, but yeah, sounds like they weren't overly happy. Oh, sorry, Kudus wasn't overly happy with being subbed at half time. Lopetegui obviously wasn't happy with his first time performance, so it doesn't seem to be an overly happy dressing room at the moment, and it'll be interesting if Kudus does feature at the weekend.
The stats around the shots taken and that kind of stuff, it was similar to the Chelsea game, in fact. I mean, maybe because Chelsea got the game won in the first half, but West Ham dominated the shot count in that match as well. Couldn't score. So maybe, I draw your own conclusions from that one. Let's move it on. Last season, though, Seb, wasn't that bad, was it? I mean,
considering the David Moyes era was kind of coming to an end, they finished 9th, 52 points. Only 1 win in the last 5 as the season kind of petered out. I think they announced his departure a couple of weeks before the end of the season, and then Lopetegui was kind of an open secret. He was going to come in, and he was announced very quickly after the season ended. They got to the quarterfinals as well of the Europa League, went out against Leverkusen across 2 legs. That's following on from their Europa Conference League win the season before against, was it Fiorentina, I think. Top goal scorers, Jared Bowen, we'll discuss him later, 16. Mohamed Kudus, we just mentioned, 8. James Ward-Prowse with 7. James Ward-Prowse also got 7 assists as well, so he was a bit of a threat, but he's since moved on. Vladimir Soufal, the right back, with 7, and Lucas Paquetá with 6. So a pretty solid season, a European campaign ending at the quarterfinal stage, 9th in the Premier League. Okay, they've missed out on any kind of European place for a 3rd successive season, but not too bad at all, I would suggest.
And then the managerial change in the summer, and I didn't think Lopetegui had done brilliant work at Wolves. I guess you'll correct me. I mean, he kept them up, didn't he? But it did feel a bit of a strange appointment that there said, but presumably was trying to be a little bit of an antidote to Moyes' ball. Is that maybe the strategy there?
I presume so. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember his time at Wolves being open, attacking, free-flowing football. So I think if you're looking at that from a point of view, moving on from David Moyes, someone more attractive, then he will be easier on the eye. But it's certainly not a revolutionary switch to kind of prime Barcelona under Pep Guardiola. So yeah, a bit of a strange one for me. He kind of, like you said, that Wolves side, he made them functional, hard to beat. He won 10 out of 27 games. I think they were in the relegation zone when he was appointed. disappointed. But he did fine, kept them up, and then he had a falling out, didn't he, with the owner around future funding and transfer plans. So he walked away right on the eve of the season. I think it was days before the 23-24 season started, and they had to scramble to appoint Gary O'Neill. And he's had a couple of strange kind of managerial escapades in the past. He was the Spain manager at the 2018 World Cup. He got all the way over there into Russia, qualified with ease, topped the group, got all the way over there to Russia before the campaign started, and it was announced he would join Real Madrid after the World Cup campaign was over. And the Spanish FA fired him, sent him home, and I think they appointed Fernando Herrero to kind of run the club, run the squad over there. He didn't last at Real Madrid either. He won 6 out of 14 games and was fairly quickly kind of booted on. He got a bit of pedigree. He won the Europa League at Sevilla before he got the move to Wolves. But yeah, just a bit of a strange appointment. I'm not necessarily sure his playing style will overly appease West Ham fans moving forward.
Fair enough. Hopefully we can take advantage on Saturday. History perhaps suggests maybe not, though.
Yeah, they've got the better of it, like we seem to have every week with this at the moment, don't we? 21 wins for Ipswich, 20 draws, and 27 West Ham wins. Go and check out Blue Monday Rewind, the excellent Blue Monday Rewind, where they look forward to looking back, hosted by Craig with Dave. They discuss the 3-1 defeat there in March 2002, as we kind of got in that death spiral following the winter run of form on our way to eventual relegation. They also discussed the far happier 12 months previously when Martin Reusser scored that free kick that was definitely a penalty, but was given outside the box as we closed in on a UEFA Cup campaign. And as I mentioned, our last time there in the league was the 1-0 victory when Lee Bowyer scored very, very late on in the Paul Jewell era. Guess what I've got for you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is going to be hard for you, I reckon. You're going to struggle with this one. This is the 27th of September, 2011, a 1-0 victory for Ipswich. Lee Bowyer in the 89th minute. Good luck.
Chopra.
Yeah.
Sonko, Inga Marson.
Sonko, yes. No Inga Marson.
Aaron Lee Barrett.
No, on the bench.
Was Cresswell playing?
Yeah, Cressy's there.
Oh, man. Help me out, chat. Oh, here we go. Neil's easy as you get these. He's saying Bullard.
Yeah, Bullard. We're that really old midfield, do you remember? So you know Lee Bowyer, you've got Bullard. Player who scored a lot of goals, but didn't do much else.
Jason Scotland, was he in there, by the way?
He started, yeah, up front with Chopra.
We've got Collins.
Yeah, Neil Collins was the centre-back alongside Sonko. So you need the right-back, which was a player. No, it was a lone goalkeeper on loan from
Alex
Fulham,
McCarthy or David Stockdale.
David Stockdale, yeah, you've got him. So you need the other kind of very slow central midfielder. Actually, need 2 of them. I think it was a 4-4-2 diamond. I think it's weird.
Wasn't Keith Andrews?
Yes, he was the guy that scored a lot of goals but did very little else. So you've got the strikers, you've got him. You need one more central midfielder, and you need the right back. The right back was a player out of position that Paul Jewell tried to persevere with. I think, Mick McCarthy moved him instantly since he took over. So just one more central midfielder.
No, you might need to give me a clue.
Roy Keane signed him from a former club for quite a lot of money, I think, left on a free, of course, like most players in that age did.
Grant Ledbetter?
Grant Ledbetter, yeah.
Oh, did he take the corners and beat the first man?
Not a vintage side.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, brilliant. I did better than I thought there, but needed some clues. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for your help. Chat a little bit behind, so I don't look as bad. But let's bring things back up to date. We've got quite a lot of money spent, Seb. When we were talking about us in January, I mean, I guess the net spend looks pretty good for West Ham as well, but there's some big money spent, not least from Wolves.
I think it's a really good window. We'll discuss in a minute. They've had 10 arrivals. They've spent big. I presume this is some of the Declan Rice money kind of being spent, isn't it? Max Kilman was kind of the headline, 40 million quid from Wolves, played there under Julian Lopetegui. Crescencio Somerville, our old adversary from last season, Championship Player of the Season, 19 goals. He has joined. Hasn't featured that much. They spent 25 million quid on him as Leeds kind of had to. Yeah, all Leeds were over a barrel a little bit, weren't they? Yeah, but Leeds had to make sales, didn't they, to kind of fund the upcoming transfer obligation. So I think that's very good business. Nicholas Füllkrug, who kind of came to everyone's attention in the Euros. Germany would kind of bring him on. He's an old school, big, strong centre forward. He won't feature the weekend. He's injured, but they spent £27 million on him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, is a solid
great value
footballer. Yeah, 15. Well, he was going to the last year of his contract. That's why he was relatively cheap. And I guess you could argue he's maybe a bit limited offensively. Excellent one-on-one defender. but not the best maybe going forward. But 50 million quid for me is still a bargain price, considering United spent 50 million pounds to sign him from Crystal Palace. Guido Rodriguez is a central midfielder, a free transfer from Real Betis, Argentinian World Cup winner. Didn't feature much at the World Cup, but was in the squad. John Claire Tajibo is a centre-back. They've signed him on loan from Nice, very highly rated, linked to Man United. He's a loan with an obligation to buy, so he could be an excellent, excellent bit of business this summer. And Carlos Sola has joined from PSG on loan, central midfielder, can play as a 10, just a classy, technically very good Spanish player. So I think some really, really solid business. They trimmed the fat a little bit of their squad. Flynn Downs, obviously die-hard West Ham fan, played a bit in the first year there, was loaned out to Southampton last year. He made the move to Southampton permanently, 50 million quid. Said Benrahma, the goal scorer of the penalty in the Europa Conference League, he was on loan at Lyon for the second half of last season, made that permanent. Thilo Carrera has gone to Monaco at 9 million. James Ward-Prowse is a bit of a strange one, 7 goals and 7 assists, but apparently by all accounts he was a David Moyes signing, and their technical director simply didn't fancy him. So as soon as Moyes went, he decided to move him on. Ben Johnson, we know, left, came to us to swap benches to come and sit on our bench for a little bit. Kurt Zouma, they kind of trimmed some heavy wages. He's gone on loan to Saudi, and Maxwell Cornet has gone on loan to Southampton. So they've trimmed the fat a little bit with squad players, got a bit of value for those that weren't really going to feature. But yeah, I think some of the players they've brought in, I think are really, really good business.
Style of play, Seb, has much changed from the Moyes era formation or possession wise?
Well, it's a 4-1-4-1, but also kind of dovetails into a 4-2-3-1. They have this deep midfield. I can't wait till we do a side that doesn't play 4-2-3-1. Yeah. They have this sort of kind of central midfield anchor who will sit deep. That's kind of what Rodriguez has been brought in to do. He will sit deep and provide the security for the other players to kind of do their thing. They build out from the back. There's a real lack of pace at the moment in their central midfield. That's where they seem to be struggling. The players they've got in there aren't the quickest. So that seems to be one of their major Achilles heels at the moment. And I had a quick look at kind of last season. I know we've only got 6 games to sample, but I had a quick look at last season versus this season, and nothing seems to have changed really. The possession's gone from 41% to 44%. Shots per 90 has gone from 12 to 15. Shots per 90 on target, however, has remained the same at around 4. Short passes is ever so slightly up. Long balls is ever so slightly down. And it's just at the moment, I guess they'll be feeling that nothing has really changed. You know, the season hasn't started well. I guess if you appointed a manager and you saw free-flowing football and you lose to Chelsea 4-3 and you lose to Villa 3-2 and you're giving it a go and you can see patterns of play and you can see things develop, I think you might potentially be kind of a lot more patient with what you're watching. And I guess the trouble is, if the eye test is saying this looks the same, but under Moyes, we would grind out a 1-1, sneak a win here or there, and suddenly, you know, you're getting 3-0 defeats and getting booed off against Chelsea. I think that's the major problem. So far, in the very brief reign, we have to say that, so far in the very brief reign, it doesn't really pass the eye test at the moment, does it?
Yeah, 3% increase in average possession is not really much, is it? And being below 50% as well is probably alarm bells if I'm a West Ham fan. Who are the likely key men for us to look out for, Seb? And I mean, there's some big names in there with Jarrod Bowen. We know all about Jarrod Bowen from Hull, don't we? But established international player and scored some really crucial goals for them, hasn't he?
He's the main man, isn't he? Only 1 goal so far this season, but he's still their main attacking threat, I would suggest. Plays on the right behind the striker, likes to cut in onto his left, or he can stand the fullback up and go down to the byline and put a cross in. I think he's a top draw player. Got the winner in the Europa Conference League final very late on, 18 months ago or so. So yeah, a really, really top draw player. We've already discussed Mohamed Kudus. It'll be very interesting if he were to start. He plays off the left, very similar to Bowen in that he likes to get onto his right foot and shoot. He's normally a number 10 when he was at Ajax. They spent about £35 million on him, but he's been repurposed a bit as a left-hand kind of attacker. I'm not entirely sure he'll start. I presume Lopetegui will make a point, put him on the bench and put Somerville at left wing if I was a betting man. Lucas Paquetá, as Mike D there just mentions, a very, very classy player. Nearly got himself a move to Man City last year for 80 or 85 million pounds. He's kind of your creative one in midfield. In a Lopetegui system, they basically want one deep lying anchor, one box-to-box player, and the other midfielder's kind of your kind of classy one, your playmaker. Paquetá kind of fills that role. 62 touches per game, so he's very, very heavily involved, and I think he's a really, really classy player. And that's the threat, isn't it? Those 3 players, Bowen, Kudus and Paquetá, would probably walk into not the very elite, you know, you're not talking kind of City level or Arsenal levels, but certainly they get into, you know, probably a Spurs side, a Newcastle side, I would argue. It's a very, very attacking three who can cause problems.
Is he a bit of an nest house as well, Paqueta? I thought he might be a little bit. If I remember, is he a Brazilian guy? Is he?
Yeah. He's classy. He came in from Lyon, I think. They spent about £40 million on him. Came in from Lyon. Took a little bit of time to adjust, you could say, but no, I think he's a really classy player. I don't know if it's an S house. Personally, I didn't look at the bookings or anything from professional.
I think there might be more for international, but anyway, Souček, someone, kind of a key part of the Moyes team, I would suggest.
Yeah, probably a player that you associate with Moyes. You know, he's big, he's strong, a bit like Fellaini at Everton. He likes these kind of big set-piece threats from corners who can also do a job defending corners. As I said, got his goal last week. He's played more advanced. He was played more as a 10 in the second half against Brentford, whereas obviously traditionally under Moyes, he was kind of a more of a traditional number 8. Mikel Antonio is still going, 34 years old now. Those of us that were there in October 2015 at the City Ground when he scored in the 94th minute or whatever it was, we'll have fond memories of him. 34 now, only got 1 assist so far this season, hasn't scored. Füllkrug is injured, so he's likely to play through the middle, or Danny Ings potentially could come in, doesn't really feature that much anymore this season off the bench, or Jared Bowen could go through the middle. Emerson Palmieri, left back, is a player I like. He's keeping Cressy out of the team. Aaron Cresswell signed a 1-year deal. Is he still in your fantasy team? Is he, Aaron Cresswell?
Yes, yeah.
Brilliant. He signed a 1-year deal.
Squad places that I need to fill.
He signed a 1-year deal in the summer and is now in his 10th season, I assume, because it was the start of the playoff campaign summer we sold him, wasn't it? So Emerson Palmieri, they signed him from Chelsea. He'll look to get forward down the left. And Alphonse Areola is the goalkeeper. Not having an amazing season, -1 in the goals prevented stats, no clean sheets, 17th in the saves percentage with 61%, but still a solid keeper who has played at PSG. He's still a goalkeeper of relatively high caliber.
Yeah, and Füllkrug's probably the major injury situation there. Seb, we mentioned Cresswell unlikely to start, may feature off the bench, set piece danger as we know, and one of the good bits of business that Paul Jewell did along with Luke Chambers, I think, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Do you want to, before we finish, any kind of stats that you want to draw attention to, any straws that we want to clutch at?
Just that they're really struggling both in the attacking and the defensive fronts. They are bottom for big chances created with 8. They've only scored 2 goals at home. 1 was a penalty, 1 was an own goal. They're the only side without a goal, therefore, from open play at home. They do shoot. 13 shots per game is reasonable. And 4 on target is kind of 12. So they do take shots. They just can't seem to finish. 6 goals conceded from open play at home is the highest in the league. And one of the killer stats is that they've conceded first in 5 out of the 6 games so far this season. So, yeah, they are struggling at both the attacking and the defending aspects of it at the moment.
Any special insight you want to share?
Just if we can score early, obviously it'll make the world of difference. They've conceded 3 goals in the opening 10 minutes of games. 2 have actually come in the first 5 minutes of games. And when that's happened, they've lost all those 3 games. So if we could score early, the crowd could potentially turn and get very, very upset. And in theory, if it follows how it has for the rest of the season, it'll be a nice day out in East London for us.
Yeah, and we'll talk about how Ipswich will line up for this one. But I took a lot of comfort from the goals conceded against Chelsea. The high line they were playing feels like a real opportunity for Liam Delap. Unless you're going to drop him and bring in George Hurst, who knows? But yeah, that kind of feels like getting in behind with pace. It did feel like they were quite flat-footed at the back. Midfield as well didn't drop in either. So maybe those balls down the side. Hutchinson's running. Delap's hard running as well. Shots. I think that might give us an opportunity. Right, we're going to do a few bits and pieces of admin, then we're going to talk about us. So get your thoughts in on how you would approach this one. To quote Jurassic Park, I haven't adjusted the levels, so hold on to your butts.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells for their support of the podcast this season. one-stop badges. You can't really see it. I'm wearing it this week. A few of our friends for Prematch are now in receipt of their Blue Monday one-stop badges badge. If you find us, a good chance on Saturday we might not have that many because they might be perceived to be projectile weapons. So they've got pointy bits on them as well. So we might try and take a few and get rid of those before we even get into the stadium. But on a normal home match day, you can usually find one of the team with a one-stop badge. We don't have too many, so move fast. But thank you to One Stop Badge for their support of the podcast as well. As always, liking stuff, subscribing to stuff is very much appreciated. 5-star ratings on the podcast as well. We really love those as well. So thank you for your support. The Flagship Show will be back Sunday evening. Ben, Dave and Craig will be talking about West Ham after the fact. Sunday, 8 p.m. live here on YouTube and on podcast afterwards, and plenty of content for your journey down to London if you're going that way, or to fill your weekend if you're not. Blue Monday Rewind, we talked about that. Great to see that kind of show having a life of its own now with Craig and Dave, and the Premier League predictions as well with Ben and Mikey. The Telegram group, always open for business as well. Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk is our website. Everything you need, including the link to vote for us in the FCAs, is over there too. Good. Seb, Ipswich Town, 4 unbeaten. The record, by the way, for consecutive draws is 7 in the Premier League. Do you think we can make it 5, or is it going to be a win? Who knows? What are you adjusting from last weekend against Villa, if anything, to try and get that elusive first win?
Last week was an excellent performance. We obviously sat here and we waxed lyrical about Villa, and we both predicted defeats. I think I said 3-1. I think, did you say 2-1? I think on the on last week's show, and we were proved wrong. It was an excellent display. We really took the game to them, especially in that second half. And we could easily have won the game. That said, sorry, I might be a little bit negative. I think we're going to continue the run of draws here, personally. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, because I still think, although they've started really poorly, this is still a really good side. And those attacking players, those attacking threats, I think could cause us problems. And, poor Leif Davis, every single week we seem to bemoan the fact that he's got somebody else to play against, and this week it's going to be Jared Bowen. So, yeah, sorry, folks, I'm going to go for a 1-1.
Are you changing the personnel?
Well, McKenna mentioned, didn't he, that we have a few unspecified niggles, nothing too serious apart from Kiyuste. It'll be interesting, I think, the left-hand side, the two sides behind the striker. Black will obviously play. Some idiot last week suggested that George Hurst might come in. Don't listen to him, folks, for his football knowledge. But I think the two interesting positions will be right wing and left number 10. I think Ogbene, he didn't really struggle, but he wasn't really involved, was he? Everything seemed to go down our left for most of the Villa game. So I could see Burns potentially coming back in there. And then I like Jack Clark. I was really impressed. Got the assist for the opening goal. Should have scored the header in the first half. I thought he grew into the game nicely. But I just think away from home, crowd potentially, on you, is this a game for Sammy Schmodic and his S-housery and his ability to chase? And Harry, do you think we might see that Jack Clark becomes a bit of a home player, and maybe at these kind of away games where the crowd might be right on you, it might be kind of the atmosphere that Schmodic kind of thrives in? Apart from that, I think most of it picks itself. I think Calvin Phillips will be bang up for this. Had a really kind of poor loan spell, didn't he, in the second half of last season there? Couldn't get going at all, fell out with the fans. I think he'll be bang up for this. Morsey obviously will play. I think we now have a recognised back five. I just think Ogbene and Jack Clark, for me, are probably the two question marks over last week. I'd like to see Burns potentially come back in. If Clark starts, happy days. I just wonder if it's the kind of game that Schmodic thrives on. What do you think of that? All that information I've thrown at you?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it. I do quite like Jack Clark in that left side position with Davis. I thought he got better as the game went on as well. Figured out his role, particularly off the ball. McKenna talked about that post-match. So I wonder whether that, you establishing these partnerships is something we've talked about a lot on the podcast, and given Clark has now figured that out, you do wonder whether there's a role for Schmodic somewhere else. But it's pace that I think we need, and Schmodic has that down that left-hand side, probably more so than Clark. So yeah, I think I'd probably just go with Clark if he's fit, just for the continuity, and it's going to continue to establish the pairing there. On the right-hand side, I think Burns comes in. I agree with you that Ogbene, it might have been a tactical situation on that right-hand side, that he didn't get beyond the right back too much. but it didn't feel like it worked. Burns didn't really do a great deal either, but has that explosive pace. And again, as we talked about, if the danger's down the sides, getting in behind, I think you probably want Burns there, which makes me agree with you, I think. So I think it's basically the same. No, Burns, Vrugbenny, but that's it. Unchanged, isn't it? I think.
So you think Clark will retain his place?
I think so.
To build up that covalent bond.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And Amari Hutchinson's pace, I think we need that for the same reasons we've talked about. So, yeah, I think that's it. But let us know your thoughts in the chat. We've got a few bits and pieces we can come to. We'll do predictions towards the end as well. So get those saved up. We've got a question from Richard here. What have teams done well to neutralise those attacking mids? Any formula to follow in any of the matches? I'm not sure it's anything particular, Seb, in terms of our personnel, that the three behind the striker. I just think we're learning the level, aren't we? And some players are not used to the level. But maybe it's just those pairings, those partnerships just aren't right. Or are you seeing anything that people are doing?
Yeah. I guess we're building a new kind of three behind the striker, aren't we? For years, it was Burns, Chaplin, and then Broadhead or Marcus Harness. And these things do just take time for those players to kind of get involved. I guess, I thought Jack Clark grew into the game last week. I thought Hutchinson was really good. Second half, a couple of times, drop of the shoulder and looks to get forward. Ogbene was quiet. But yeah, I just think, like you say, we're learning the level. It's a hell of a step up. Look at the caliber of players that we're now facing compared to 2 years ago and even 12 months ago. It's a big step up, and these things will just take time. And like we've kind of seen now, we haven't established back five and central midfield too, everyone being fit, and Liam Delap leading the line. It's just that last piece of the puzzle behind the striker that we need to work out.
Neil reckons Smodic might start. He's kind of concurring with you on the home and away team kind of situation, which, yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Mike Salmon socks. I reckon Morsey's got more goals in him this season if he stays on the pitch. Now I'm for yellows.
If he gets booked on Saturday, he'll miss the Everton game. So that could be absolutely crucial given the potential seriousness of that game at Portman Road back after the international break. So he's normally very good at this, isn't he? When he gets right to the limit, he can normally go a few matches without getting booked. So that would be useful if he can kind of get through Saturday without getting the fifth booking.
Mike D, one change I'd like to see Burns in for Benny. There you go. Streaky, Burns starts. No other starting changes for him. Nathan, our resident West Ham fan, I think is departed. He says all the best going forwards and see you in Stratford. Thank you, Nathan, for getting involved. And I think apart from a Norwich fan who I've kicked out quickly, all is well in the chat. We've got Norman asking about Broadhead, Seb.
Well, he's not getting on the bench, is he? So I think potentially the Wales games might be his first chance of getting some minutes. We know McKenna likes to load the bench with attacking options. He very rarely puts a centre-back on there. It's normally Ben Johnson and Connor Townsend to kind of cover those positions, given that Tanzabi can switch inside. And I think for now he's going to have to be patient, isn't he? It's really unfortunate for him that he got that kind of that injury in pre-season. Similar to George Hurst, the difference being with George Hurst, we couldn't sign a player to come into that position and compete. But unfortunately for Broadhead, we did, and he might have to be a little bit patient and kind of bide his time. It might be an injury or a suspension that lets him get back into the squad.
Yep. Jerry, thank you for the super sticker. We salute you. Thank you so much for your support of the podcast. You can do likewise from within YouTube. There's a super chat button there. But as we say, a thumbs up is very much appreciated for us. So that is a great currency for us. Drags more people to watch the stuff. So we appreciate that. But Jerry, thank you so much for getting behind us, and the super chat there, very generous of you. We appreciate it. Mike asked about getting the best out of Smodic. Is it down the left or is it in the middle? I don't think
Amari's
the middle,
isn't it? We haven't seen him in the middle yet, but that's definitely where he causes the most damage. Trouble is you've got Amari Hutchinson there. So I just think his general nature, Clark's a very classy player who looks to kind of, run with the ball. He's a ball carrier, whereas Smodic is more aggressive, in your face, probably presses and probably chases down a little bit better. So I'm just thinking kind of horses for courses on this one.
Fair enough. Hello to Philip from Victoria, Vancouver Island. Lovely part of the planet, the world. Great to have you with us, Philip. He'd love to see Jack Clark start as well. Impressed as a lot of us were from last week. It feels like we're, I feel like there's consensus definitely on the two wide positions, Seb, and everything else. So I think rather than upset the apple cart, well, it's time. It is time. Seb has been waiting for this since Sunday night. Well, since the start of the season, really. We will come back to your score predictions at the end, so start thinking about those. but we're going to talk about Fantasy Premier League. And look at his face. Look at his face. Thank you to Brett Vale. They're our partners for. I'm going to drag this out as long as I can. Our partners
still be there waiting for you.
The FPL feature this season. They've got a couple of offers on, and a second membership introductory offer, and also a charge card offer. Get £20, 24 pence on your club card to spend at the bar when you quote Blue Monday when you join. Lovely picturesque golf course just south of Ipswich in Constable country. So if you're looking for some autumnal golf, head down to Brett Vale. I don't usually do this, Seb, but I'm gonna indulge you because I have to hold my hands up. You've had an absolutely epic week in the FPL. Here's your team, here's your scorers. Do you want to talk us through the key contributors? I mean, it's obvious they're all wearing blue, but
yeah, so I played a 3, but Davis came in. But yeah, Cole Palmer, thank you very much. I was following the game loosely on Saturday, and I scored he'd got a couple. Then I saw he got a first half hat trick, and I think I started texting you abuse. Liam Delap then follows that up beautifully with his double against Villa last weekend. Salah was my captain. He scored. I think he got an assist as well. Pedro Porro got a clean sheet. Gvardiol scored. It was just an excellent week, and so much so I believe. Well, I'll let you put the table up when you're ready. What did you get, by the way, last week? Did you top 32 points?
32
just over 56 behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, on the actual score within FPL, we are now on level points. That brought you level with me.
Am I not too ahead of you on FPL points?
I thought we were level, but I might be wrong. But on our scoring tracker here with the ITFC bonus, Liam Delap has properly kicked you into first position on the cumulative score. So
Liam Delap, ole.
Very epic week for you. So congratulations for that. And I did foresee trouble. If, to my credit, I did have concerns about Haaland, and if I'd thought about them a bit more, maybe I'd have done something about it. But there's only so much you can do unless I'm going to lob a wild card into the mix, which is very early days. If you're new to this feature, by the way, Seb and I pick 3 Ipswich players for our 15 and 1 bonus player who's an ex-ITFC or got some link via youth academies or places of birth to Ipswich and Suffolk. And we can name 2 of those in our teams and they get us double points along with the normal rules for FPL. And we need to congratulate Paul Draper, who continues to lead the way in our pre-match show mini league. Despite Seb's historic scoring last week, still hasn't got a place in the top 10, and nor do I. Let's have a look at your team, Seb. If aim broke, don't fix it.
I've made a change. João Pedro he went from being, I think he was meant to be fit this weekend, to suddenly having the red exclamation mark with a return date unknown. So I subbed him out and I bought in Ivan Nielsen, the striker who Bournemouth signed for a lot of money in the summer, given they're playing Leicester and given he seems to be the number 1 goal scoring threat. Apart from that, is exactly the same, but I have switched captains. I've made Mo Salah my vice captain and I've made Cole Palmer my captain because they're playing Forest at home.
I've given Haaland 1 more week to earn his position in my team. I've kept him as captain. Nick Jackson is my vice captain. He's at Forest. Well, they play Forest this weekend. And I have brought in Brennan Johnson from Tottenham, who's on a little bit of a run. I thought he'd played well at the weekend. I don't know whether he qualifies for my bonus spot in the squad, though, through his dad. I don't know if you know him. He played for Ipswich, Seb.
Did he?
He was.
Well, it's no surprise then if Brennan Johnson's doing so well, it must be in the genes. World-class players breed world-class talents.
So I brought in Johnson. I've got Jared Bowen in there, by the way. That was obviously before Ipswich, but there's a lot of underperformance in there, and I am really close. Missoma's not done anything for me. Bowen's obviously not doing anything for me. Yotta's not doing anything for me. So
Neil Maupay will struggle to do anything for you. He's been in France for the last 6 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly right. So I think there might be a panicky wildcard situation sooner rather than later there, but who knows what might happen. We will be back, not next week, the week after next, to see how many points Seb is leading by. Get your predictions in now for West Ham v Ipswich. We will finish on those. And any questions you have for Seb as well. We've got some time, so happy to take any questions for Seb. So we've got plenty of time. You've gone for 1-1, Seb, was it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I just think I don't want to be negative, but I do just think they're a good side, and it's unlikely they're going to lose 4 home games in a row. I hope I'm obviously wrong, but I think 1-1 at the start of the season, if you probably offer us a 1-1 draw at West Ham to go 5 unbeaten in the Premier League, we probably see that as a really good result. It's the circumstance that makes that negative, given how poorly they've started, especially at home, and how easily they seem to be shipping goals at the moment.
Yeah. Mavi quite rightly, play 3 town players every FPL week. It's the way to go. I mean, I really want to laugh at my team before Villa last week, and I'm kind of feeling like I need to do something atomic to sort that out. But Hutchinson's got good points. Davis has got good points. Anyone else? Who's on the cusp of greatness? Who's in your thinking for another Ipswich Town bit of recruitment, Seb? KFP?
Well, but he's not a FPL player, is he? He's like Moores. I know Moores scored, but he's not an FPL player. Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane are absolute world-class Premier League legends, but they would have been crap on FPL because they don't really do anything that gets you goals and gets you assists. Jack Clark could potentially be the next one. Yeah, I think I would agree with that one. I'm still surprised that Jacob Greaves hasn't scored yet, given his kind of how good he is at getting on the end of things coming into our box. I can't remember. He had a header against Liverpool, did he? Or am I imagining that? But apart from that, I've not really seen too much from him. We seem to be varying up our set pieces, don't we? Phillips seems to be taking the in-swinging ones, and from the right footing option, and Leif Davis is still taking the other ones. But yeah, our set piece threat hasn't quite clicked yet, I would suggest, has it?
No, but some praise for Mark Hudson, nevertheless. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Norman's coming in here, Seb. If you want to if you want to tempt fate for a Seb collapse, that's the kind of chat that we need. So I'm
only a few points ahead of you. This isn't dramatic at this stage.
I'm all here for predicting me to have a massive failure, because that just tempt fate well enough for me to find a way to turn things around. But anyway, you start frying some thoughts in the think walk. Mike Salmon's socks. He's going for a 3-1 Town, Seb. That's confidence. Watching West Ham v Chelsea, you hope we can get 3 points. So many of us are growing into the Prem now. Is there a danger of underestimating West Ham? There's a few 3-1s in here, with no disrespect to people predicting those. You're very much entitled to your opinion, but I guess we need to respect the opposition. There's a lot of 2-1s. We've got a 3-0 in here.
On paper, if you look at it, as you remind me, football isn't played on paper. But yeah, on paper, they have started really poorly, and we are now, I think we're growing into the season really well. Our performances are getting better and better, and that will eventually lead to wins. We know that. I've just got a feeling, I don't know what it is. There's no real logic behind it, because logically you should be looking at this and saying they concede early goals. They're really slow in central midfield. Their attacking players aren't firing yet. The fans booed them off against Chelsea. There's player unrest in the dressing room. This should be, in theory, a brilliant chance for us to get the first win of the season. I just still think this is a side that got to the quarterfinals of the Europa League last year, won a European Cup 2 years ago. Yes, they're in transition, but Jared Bowen, Lucas Paquetá, Crescencio Somerville, Mohamed Kudus, if he plays, they have a lot of threat, and I still just think a point would be a decent result. Just to keep the win, to keep the unbeaten run going, a really solid performance and a point would take us into a huge home game with Everton after the break, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and let's be honest, West Ham don't want to continue their poor run at home either. They'll be seeing us as an opportunity to do that as well. But who am I to put a pin in the optimism bubble that is Ipswich Town at the moment? Neil's going for a 2-1. Tim's shown he's working with a 2-0 Phillips and Delap. I think Phillips would love to score. He's done a podcast with Patrick Bamford and Joe Wilkinson.
Is it good? Have you listened? I've not listened to it yet. Is it good?
Yeah, I recommend it. Really good. Yeah, okay. Obviously comes across as a really lovely guy anyway in real life. You don't need to podcast to confirm that, but some really interesting chat about his conversations with Kieran McKenna in the summer, his fitness, and how he kind of feels like coming to Ipswich has helped get him back to the levels he was at before. I won't spoil too much more, but yeah, really lovely conversation, and a really good insight into the character as well as the footballer. So yeah, very much recommend that one. Streaky's going for a 3-1. Colin's going for a 2-0. Greg's going for a 2-0 as well. Michael, a little bit more on the pragmatic side. He's going for a 2 draw. Greaves from a corner. Love the working. And a cut back to Delap. Neil wants a KF below winner. Thunder B2. Mabby's going for a 3-2. That'll be entertaining, wouldn't it? Mark's going for a 4-0. Blimey. Horse or a 1 always sticking with kind of the consensus of tonight's pods team. Mike, 2 Zabi with a 40-yard screamer to win at 1-0. I mean, I love that.
There would be scenes in the away end, wouldn't there, if that happened?
My Anthony's going for a 2-1. We hasn't confirmed if that's for Ipswich or West Ham, but we will assume that it's Ipswich Town. Streaky will never predict a loss. We're very much aware of your method, Streaky, and we are very much here for it. Good for you. But a lot of people are reminding us about Chelsea. Richards, Hutchinson to score to get on the score sheet for the season. He's going for a 2-1 Town. And Joe reminding us that Ings and Antonio haven't been firing since. Oh goodness me! If Norman's question was talking about tempting fate, I don't know what is. Rando with his usual well thought out, excellent 4-6 would be great. Bit of crew about that one, Chris. It was not. It was not what, Anthony?
He's saying it was. I presume it was not predicting an Ipswich win. He was predicting a West Ham win.
Absolute disgraceful. So good. We've got some good optimism, Seb. I feel like that's a good place to end this week. Reality might say it, and who knows, but anything is possible before the game. Thank you if you've made it this far for getting involved in the chat. Thank you to Seb and all of his excellent research. Please do give us a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't already. I know we've been pushing that quite hard of late. We won't be doing that so much, but we do appreciate that, and it does mean you're getting ITFC content in your feed 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. We will have something next week in the international break as well. Don't worry about that. But before that happens, Flagship Show, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Ben, Craig, Dave, and Blue Monday Rewind prediction show. All that lovely stuff. Seb, any final thoughts from you? We've got some love. A question here from Mike. Is Seb going to IKEA again? Anything you need to return because you didn't measure it properly?
It's even more exciting than that. I had a leak, one of those rubbish adulting things that happens. I had a leak from an upstairs pipe through to my kitchen ceiling. So I had it repaired and I have to repaint it. So that is my international break activity this time. That's how exciting my life is, folks.
Fun times. In which case, Seb, you will be chomping at the bit for some Premier League football action on Saturday. Thank you, as always. You can see us out and give us a rousing send-off into the weekend.
Come and say hello if you see us at the London Stadium, our first new stadium that no one will have seen an Ipswich game in so far this season, with Brentford to follow. They are in poor form. We've kind of sat here and said they're still a good side, but the facts are they are in poor form. They have been conceding early goals. If we score early, let's make sure that away end for 90 minutes, as we know it will be, is loud and proud and gets the boys over the line and hopefully gets our first win of the season. See you all there. Come on, you Blues.